Alan Ladd Jr. seemed to be the only one on Lucas's side over at 20th Century Fox. It wasn't that everyone was lined up against him, but rather that there was this overall sense of indifference about Star Wars. Sure, there was a lot more money required for it than a THX or an American Graffiti, but Fox was already working on a number of films that were of comparable budget and unlikely to be big commercial hits. Jane Fonda's Julia, for instance, had a budget of nearly $8 million. The only real problem was that films like Julia were the prestige films, the ones the studios put out to show, we create art. If it doesn't make money, well, that's fine. That's what the other movies are for. Star Wars was not a prestige film. It needed to make a profit, and the best way to do that was to find a way to keep the costs down. One place at least that Lucas was saving money was on the cast. Lucas's philosophy was to avoid distractions for the audience, whether it was a prop, a set, or a performer's face. So his plan was to go with more unknowns if at all possible, avoiding the chance of a film star dominating the picture or pulling the audience away from the fantasy that was being created. For instance, whether you're watching I Am Legend, Men in Black, or I, Robot, Will Smith is always Will Smith in the mind of the audience. But when you look at Han Solo, Lucas wanted you to only see Han Solo. Still, Lucas was going for the best person that would fit the role, so there were some known talent on display, such as Richard Dreyfuss, who had been on American Graffiti and was now fresh off the success of Spielberg's Jaws, considered as a possibility for Han Solo. Speaking of Jaws, Lucas wanted to buck trends and go with classical music for Star Wars, and Spielberg told him that his composer on Jaws was brilliant when it came to working with an orchestra. And so he could give Star Wars a classic music feel, but also have music specifically tailored for the film, rather than trying to find something and making it fit. That composer, of course, was John Williams, and Lucas was very quickly sold on him. When he watched Spielberg's finished film, he could see how well Williams' music contributed to the overall atmosphere, which was exactly what Star Wars needed. Other friends of Lucas, Gloria and Willard Huyck, also helped out, inviting Lucas down to see Lucky Lady being shot, giving him a chance to see a major motion picture being made. Lucky Lady was a big investment. Gene Hackman alone was paid so much money that basically he only took the part because they kept raising his salary until it started getting embarrassing. Lucas took everything in to get a feel of what he would be in for, and he also extended invitations to many members of the crew to come work on Star Wars after they were finished here. But while the crew is very important, the cast was even more so. So Lucas had to dive in and do auditions and screen tests to try to find the people to bring these principal characters to life. Luckily, another ally was at hand here, Brian De Palma, who was looking to cast his film also, an adaptation of Stephen King's Carrie. De Palma suggested that the two of them do their casting together, which helped out Lucas because De Palma had the name recognition for people to take these auditions seriously. The two got the system down very well and saw a huge number of possible actors. Some familiar faces were even amongst them. While it's true that at one point Lucas had said he did not want anyone that he had already worked with on another film, it was a position he quickly reversed himself on. As I mentioned, Dreyfuss had worked on American Graffiti and he was in the running. So this also included Cindy Williams from Graffiti as a contender for the role of Princess Leia. And of course, Harrison Ford, who was kind of snuck into that role by Fred Roos, actually. Roos knew that Ford was so broke he was doing carpentry work, and so he hired him to come and repair a broken door frame, to thus provide the excuse to have Ford involved in the casting and hope that Lucas would recognize that this was his Han Solo. Princess Leia was proving especially difficult. Lucas wanted someone very young for the role, and even auditioned minors like Jodie Foster, but in the end, filming around minors would be more trouble than it was worth. There are laws in place that you have to follow whenever you work with child actors, even if they're 16 or 17. Also, it was difficult finding a performer who was that young and yet could capture the blend of regal authority and social responsibility that the role demanded. Carrie Fisher nailed it.
Don't you understand? They let us go. They're going to follow us. They want to find your hidden bases. They're going to destroy the entire system.
I know they'll follow. And they'll bring the Death Star. But our only hope is to destroy it before it destroys us. Hiding is useless now. With the Death Star, they will continue to destroy systems until they found us.
But amidst all this good news on the casting front, bad news came in as well. Over the course of this long pre-production for Star Wars, Lucky Lady saw its release, and it proved to be a dud. That affected Star Wars because, like Lucky Lady, it was an independent film that Fox had been financing. And so after that, there were concerns that maybe they should be more careful about supporting the idea that they just didn't understand. Alan Ladd remained committed to the film, but many more executives were unsure, resulting in one instance of all activity being ground to a halt, and in another, removing 6 weeks of pre-production from the schedule. While Fox was dragging their feet, Lucas was putting his own money in to keep things going. One of those rules of Hollywood that he was breaking: never put your own money into your film. But with screen tests, allies, and enemies all needing his time, Lucas had to do what was necessary in order to ensure that the film would not collapse. Much of this money would go into his own company that he was creating to handle the visual element that would be so vital if Star Wars was going to succeed.